Payton Wilson, 6'4", 238 pounds. One of the only guys that I think I'm ever going to have to put an asterisk next to his grade. I think that this is a top 50 player, and we're going to kind of get into it. But I really don't think that he goes there at all. I really don't. There is no likelihood. I mean, this guy could be a day 3 pick because of his history. And I know that you're very privy to his background, and he's somebody that you've in a way studied and tracked for a while, and you've been excited multiple times on this show to talk about his background. But I'll open the floor to you because I know that there's a lot to cover here with him.
Oh, Joe.
Oh, by the way, linebacker from North Carolina State, NC State.
Yes.
I didn't say that part.
Payton Wilson is one of the most frustrating evals I've had in my entire career at this point. One, he is a former high caliber recruit, top 40 overall recruit in the 2018 recruiting class, by the way. So he's a little bit of an older guy. He is incredibly talented, man. Like so talented. He's listed at like 6'4", 237 pounds, I believe. I think I have a Blesto measurement on him, which I'll kind of pick up, as I speak about him a little bit. But here is the timeline of Payton Wilson as a football player, Joe. Payton Wilson redshirted as a 2018 player in his 2018 season because he had an injury that cost him the entirety of that season. I believe that was his ACL tear at that point. Okay. In his career so far, Payton Wilson has had multiple shoulder surgeries. He's had an ACL tear as well. No, speaking as a former linebacker that has both labrums repaired, yes, it is not a good situation to have bad shoulders as a linebacker. So he's got multiple shoulder tears. I believe they were both labrums. He also has an ACL tear. He was also arrested as a true freshman, which I don't think that will end up being a big thing. Not me, but otherwise, yeah. I don't think the arrest is going to be the big thing. It's just putting out information of there's going to be a lot of things that the teams are going to ask about, right? I mean, because I'm not going to go into what he was arrested for. You can Google it and you can find all the reports and everything. It was just a kid being young, right? Ultimately. So it's not like he was it wasn't like burglary or like theft or like something a little bit more extreme. Like it was just a bad decision for a young cat. But regardless, he's got multiple injuries on his belt. He's got multiple surgeries on his belt, shoulders and a knee. He's got the arrest on him. So there's going to be a lot that NFL teams are going to kind of have to sort through. And ultimately the medicals are going to make or break this prospect, right? You could convince me right now, Joe, that Payton Wilson goes top 50. You can convince me of it. If the medicals clear out, you could convince me of it. You could also convince me that he doesn't go to round 5. You can convince me of either reality.
I mean, you could also convince. I would argue you could convince me that he goes undrafted. Like I think that I know that sounds extreme.
If it's a pure red flag, you're right. You're not wrong there. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and all it takes for one. There are multiple injuries for him during the medical check to come up and be like, oh, this thing is going to catch up to him in 3 years, and he's going to be out of the league. That like the shoulder thing is what I'm most concerned about. The ACL stuff I'm less concerned about because it was long enough ago where the ACL recovery process, I'm not super worried. It's not like he's fresh off it and it's going to slow down his ability to get on the field early.
Yes.
I'm not worried about that. But the shoulder stuff, man, if you got bad shoulders as a linebacker and you're hitting people, that stuff deteriorates. Deteriorates.
Because that's where the big part is going to be. Like they do a thing called a DEXA scan, which is like bone density and stuff, right? Like that type of stuff is going to really make or break because by all indication, he's had 2 healthy seasons in a row. So he hasn't been injured the last 2 years.
That's why I'm optimistic. Right.
Yes, which is good. He's also a multi-year team captain, which is also good. And you hear nothing about solid reviews of his character, that's all great, right? Because ultimately, Joe, I remember after his redshirt sophomore year, I was touting this kid as a potential late first, early second round pick. That's what I was called. I literally had a late first, early second round grade on him after his redshirt sophomore year. Because the kid's so good, man. He's 6'4", 237 pounds, has played mostly will for NC State, but as he adds more weight to his frame, I think he could also be a modern day Mike. I think he has that type of upside to him. The kid is smooth. He's explosive. If you watch the Notre Dame game, he made 2 plays in pursuit coming down the field where it was like one play was Chris Tyree, who was a a championship sprinter in high school, probably going to run a
Yeah.
4.340 when he comes out because he transferred to Virginia for his final year. And he hawked him down. I mean, this kid's going to run in the 4.4s at 237 pounds. And
With a
he is
bad
going to test
ACL.
with a bad ACL. He's going to test exceptionally well. He was great this year. Actually, surprisingly pretty good through contact. His length isn't incredible for a guy that is 6'4", but he has range for days. He's instinctual and he's incredibly loose athlete, man. Payton Wilson is a starting linebacker talent on the NFL level and a +1. The question ultimately is going to be longevity and just what do the medicals look like early to see where he's draft slotted.
You hit you hit the nail on the head there. He checks every box that you look for in a premier starting linebacker in the NFL. Explosive, fantastic burst, fluid hips, moves really well in coverage. I think that he's a really good player in coverage. He's got the the size to impact the catch point for tight ends and slot receivers, and he can run with those guys. He's very aggressive. His instincts, I have no questions about it because he's played so long. He just knows where the ball is going to be. He's one of those guys where before the ball will leave a quarterback's hand or the ball is in a running back's hand, he's moving and he's moving in the right direction. He very, very rarely makes those bad mistakes. He's somebody, if he gets drafted to a team that's already in a Super Bowl conversation that could get drafted, and you're talking about him as the defensive rookie of the year because he's playing at an unbelievable level. Like kind of similar to the impact that we had from who's the kid on the Chiefs that you loved so much? That's the star. Oh, Nick Bolton, right?
Oh, Nick Bolton. Yeah, I love Nick
Yeah,
Bolton.
it's like Nick Bolton, as soon as
Bolton.
he came into the league, everybody talked so highly of him, and he was an early impact player. I think that Peyton Wilson has every capability to do that. I have, though, this strange feeling, though, that he is going to have a Jalen Smith type of career where he comes in early. It's like, wow, look at him play and look at all the things that he does. And then in 3 years, he's just struggling
He just
to
loses
move
a
and he's
step.
right.
Arthritis kicks in and it's like, yeah, you're done a little bit. Yeah. I think the one thing he has over like a Jalen Smith situation is, you remember Jalen's injury, man? Like he messed up every like ligaments and everything in his leg. Like that was a really bad injury at the time, man. Like it was debilitating for Jalen. So Joe, here's the take, and I want you to tell me if I'm off base or not. Okay, here's the take. I have a higher film grade, and they're different players, so it's not apples to apples. This isn't apples to orange conversation, but it is also a grading in a vacuum conversation. I believe Peyton Wilson is a better football player at what he does than what Jack Campbell was last year for Iowa, who went top 20.
Yeah.
I mean, just to put it into perspective, guys, like I'm saying, if this kid was clear and the film was the film and the injuries were not a concern, he could be a first round pick. Like I think he's the best linebacker just on film in this class.
Yeah.
That's what I believe. But he's not going to be drafted there. Ultimately, he's not. Even if the medicals check out, I still doubt it because he's a little bit older still. And there's still some things to work through from the medical side of things, but he's exceptional, man. I don't know.
Well, that's
frustrating eval.
That's why I have the asterisks on him, because he was one of the most fun players I've had the ability to watch this cycle, and I'm going to root for him, but I just don't know if he's ever going to really get to that point where he's going to be able to get drafted high enough, because I think a lot of teams get freaked out by this stuff.
All right, let me paint a different scenario. Peyton Wilson gets drafted in the 6th round and he ends up being a Pro Bowler. Are you surprised?
No, I think that's probably what's going to happen here.
That could happen, man. It could
happen. Can I throw out a comp and tell me to shut up? I know that this is
sure.
This gets characterized as lazy by just picking another white linebacker, but Luke Kuechly, like I don't think that's far off to say that. Very physically the same type of player.
Okay.
Very good, smart football player, very fast and downhill. I think Luke Kuechly ran like a 4.5 or something like that.
4.58. So the funny part about Luke Kuechly,
probably gonna be a little faster than Luke Kuechly.
Luke Kuechly ran a 4.58, and because there was a mantra that Luke Kuechly was just like this really good processor, he wasn't fast, right? So he ran 4.58 at the combine.
I remember.
Then the next run he only ran like 4.67 or something like that. So they made him run a third time, Joe. They made him run a third time, and then he ran 4.59, and they're like, okay, yeah, he's fast. Okay, we don't need to see anymore, which is just
I forgot about all that,
dude. Yeah, so I mean, Luke was a rare player, though, man. Like, he was just so clean. Like, there was just nothing against Luke coming out of Boston College, you know? And I think that I do
Well,
think
like
that
remove the medicals
yeah.
from it though. Like remove the medicals. That's why I
Well,
compare the two of them. Is to
would you play Peyton Wilson as a Mike though full time? I still think that he's more of a Will than a Mike, in my opinion.
I think
But
he's got this. The reason why I would eventually move him to Mike is I feel like he's got the size to play Mike.
he does. He does have the size. I don't know if there's a perfect comp to him, man. He's a very unique body type too. Like
Yeah,
he's kind of
he's lean. He's
he's
really
lanky and
weirdly
lean a
lean.
little bit, but like he's strong though. So I'm not worried about the size at all because I see him take on blocks at the point of attack and like it's not a deterrent to him working through contact and through traffic.
I say we get him up to 260. By the way, I think that I'm joking when I say that, but he's got the
Yep.
size to. He's got like a very lean frame that he could add on like another 15
Hi-
pounds if he really wanted to.
His body type. Do you remember Leighton Vander Esch coming out of Boise State? So Leighton
Yeah,
put on a
that's
ton
not a
of
bad one.
he put a ton of weight on, and I think he ended up like 255 at the combine or something like that because he put a lot of weight on. But if you watched him early in that season, he was about 240, and he was just like lean and long because he was almost 6'5". He was long as heck. So maybe there's a comparison body type there. I don't know if I would say they're necessarily like a similar player at all, but ultimately it's still like a body type comparison, I guess.
That's actually a good comp, I think, all around maybe for Leighton Vander Esch because he also fits what I just talked about with Jalen Smith, where he comes into the league. It's just like, oh my God, watch this guy play. This is one of the best linebackers in the NFL.
Yep.
And then there's just a slow deterioration of some lingering issues that just add up. And then it's
Right.
like, I can't even, you can't even keep track of which injury problem is slowing down Leighton Vander Esch at this point because
I
he's
know.
just, and he's too aggressive. He hits people way too
It's
hard
the
and he's
neck
so
injuries,
downhill that
man. It's scary.
yeah.
It's scary.
Yeah. All right. I think it's good enough to wrap us up on at Joe
Yep.
DeLeone at Rise and Draft. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. We'll be back with more. Enjoy the rest of your week.